The forest was alive with whispers. Every rustle of leaves sounded like a warning, every snap of a twig like the crack of hidden teeth. The moon hung low, swollen and pale, casting silver ribbons of light between the trees. Shadows stretched, long and black, twisting across the narrow path. Arya walked faster, though each step seemed to echo too loudly in the silence. She had promised herself she would never come here again, not after the last time she'd heard the howls in the distance. But something had drawn her back tonight, something she couldn't explain. It was like an invisible string pulling at her chest, tugging her deeper into the wild. Her breath steamed in the cold air. She adjusted her scarf tighter around her throat and tried to ignore the prickling at the back of her neck. The silence pressed harder with every step, broken only by the dry crunch of her boots against leaves. Then came another crunch. Behind her, she froze. "Hello." Her voice cracked thin and unsteady. Nothing. Her pulse kicked fast and hard. She forced herself forward, but the path seemed to narrow, trees leaning closer, as though listening. Another sound followed her. This time, a low pad against the ground. Not footsteps. Pause. Dot. Her stomach dropped. Arya spun, eyes wide. The darkness between the trunks shifted. Two golden lights appeared, unblinking eyes. Another pair joined them. Then another. Wolves. The first growl rolled through the clearing, deep and vibrating through her bones. Her breath caught, frozen in her chest, and then she ran. Branches clawed her arms, her lungs burned with the cold. The ground seemed to tremble with the rhythm of heavy paws chasing her. She darted left, right, anywhere the trees opened wide enough. But the growls followed, closer and closer. Something lunged from the side. She ducked with a strangled scream, feeling the rush of air as jaws snapped where her throat had been. She stumbled, falling hard, her palms scraping raw against the dirt. The wolf landed in front of her, lips curled, teeth white and wet. Another emerged from behind, blocking the path. Then another, circling. Her chest heaved, her back pressed to a tree. They were everywhere, eyes gleaming, bodies tense with hunger. This is it. This is how I die. And then the forest shifted. The air thickened, as though the night itself inhaled. The wolves froze, ears pricking, their snarls faltering into uneasy whines. From the shadows, a figure stepped forward. At first, she thought it was another wolf. But the shape straightened, taller, broader, walking on two legs. The moon caught his face-strong jaw, sharp cheekbones, eyes that glowed with silver fire. A man, no, not just a man, something more. He moved with a predator's grace, each step deliberate, controlled. The wolves dropped lower, whining, some crawling back into the dark, as though unwilling to meet his gaze. But one, braver or more foolish, lunged. Arya's scream stuck in her throat. The man's arm shot up with impossible speed. His hand closed around the wolf's throat midair, muscles straining beneath his sleeve. The beast kicked, snarling, but his grip never loosened. With a sharp twist, he flung it aside, as though it weighed nothing. Enough. His voice cracked through the clearing, deep and commanding, like thunder rolling across the sky. The forest obeyed, the wolves scattered, tails tucked, their glowing eyes vanishing one by one into the shadows. Silence rushed back, heavy and absolute. Arya could only stare, chest rising and falling in ragged gasps. He turned then, his silver gaze locking onto hers. For a heartbeat, she swore the world stilled. He stepped closer, boots crunching softly. Every instinct told her to run, but her body wouldn't move. "Are you hurt?" His tone was rough, almost careless, but the power in it made her shiver. She shook her head, unable to form words. I don't think so. He crouched suddenly. And her breath hitched. His hand brushed the scrape on her palm, calloused fingers grazing her skin. Heat shot through her arm like fire. She jerked her hand back, staring at him. What was he? Up close, the moonlight sharpened every detail. The straight line of his nose, the set of his mouth, the faint scar cutting across his brow. He was beautiful. But in the way a storm is beautiful, magnificent, and terrifying at once. Her voice was barely a whisper. Who are you? His lips twitched, though it wasn't quite a smile. The one who just saved your life. He rose, towering above her, scanning the trees with narrowed eyes. His body was still, but tension radiated from him, as though he was listening to something she couldn't hear. They'll be back, he said finally. It isn't safe here. Her throat tightened. You mean those wolves? He didn't answer. Instead, he extended a hand. Arya stared. Every nerve screamed at her to refuse. But something deeper, something ancient, urged her to take it. Against all reason, she slid her hand into his. The moment their skin touched, sparks jumped electric, alive. His gaze flicked to hers, and for the briefest instant, something raw flashed in his eyes. Recognition, then it was gone. His jaw hardened. Come now. Before she could protest, he pulled her into the shadows of the forest, deeper into the unknown. Deeper into a world she had never imagined. The journey through the forest felt unreal. Arya's hand was still trapped in his, heat sparking along her skin no matter how many times she tried to pull away. His grip wasn't crushing, yet it was unyielding, firm in a way that left her no choice but to follow. He moved swiftly, weaving between trees with an ease that left her stumbling just to keep up. Slow down, she hissed, breath-catching. He didn't answer. His focus was fixed ahead, jaw locked tight, shoulders rolling with predator's grace. The deeper they went, the darker the woods became, the trees closing overhead, until even moonlight could no longer pierce the canopy. She wanted to demand who he was, where he was taking her, why he seemed more dangerous than the wolves he had just fought off, but every time she opened her mouth, his silence smothered the words. Finally, a faint glow appeared between the trees. Firelight, voices. The sharp scent of smoke. Arya blinked as they emerged into a clearing. Cabins and wooden lodges spread across the valley floor, smoke curling from stone chimneys. Men and women moved among the building stall, their movements precise and watchful. Some carried wood, others sharpened blades. Every single head turned as he led her into the heart of the village. The air shifted, conversations stilled. Dozens of eyes, some human, some gleaming with the faint reflection of beasts, locked onto her. Arya swallowed hard. Who is she? A man demanded, voice sharp. She smells human, another muttered. She doesn't belong here. The murmurs spread, whispers sharpening into suspicion, hostility thickening the air until Arya's skin prickled. She took a step closer to him, though she hated herself for it. The man her rescuer, their leader, she realized lifted his chin, silver eyes flashing. The crowd quieted at once. His voice cut clean through the night. She's under my protection. The words hung heavy, as though they carried weight beyond their meaning. Gasps rippled through the onlookers. Some lowered their heads immediately. Others stared, stunned, uncertain. Arya glanced up at him. Your protection. I don't even know your name. Finally, he looked at her. Darius. The name suited him, sharp and dangerous. Well, Darius, she snapped, trying to mask her trembling with anger. I didn't ask for your protection. the silence around them grew even thicker. A few shocked murmurs ran through the crowd. No one ever spoke to him that way, that much was obvious. Darius's gaze darkened, though his expression stayed carved from stone. "You're alive because of me. Don't mistake your survival for independence." Her lips parted, a retort ready, but the weight of his stare burned through her chest, pinning the words down. She forced herself to hold his gaze anyway, even as her pulse hammered. A woman stepped forward from the crowd, then tall, elegant, with dark hair cascading over her shoulders. Her eyes, however, were anything but warm. She looked Arya up and down, lips curling into a smirk. "So this is what you bring into our territory." Her tone dripped with disdain. "A fragile little human. I thought the Alpha had higher standards." Arya stiffened. Alpha, the word echoed in her head. Darius ignored the barb, but Arya's temper snapped. "At least I don't need to hide my insecurity behind insults." She shot back before she could stop herself. The woman's eyes narrowed dangerously. A few onlookers gasped. Even Darius's head tilted slightly, as though he hadn't expected her to speak. Heat flushed Arya's cheeks. She wanted to retreat, but pride held her in place. If she showed weakness here, she knew instinctively she'd never be taken seriously. For a heartbeat, silence reigned. Then Darius's lips curved barely, the ghost of something unreadable. Amusement. Approval. He turned away without a word, his voice low and commanding as he addressed the crowd. "She stays." Just like that, the gathering dispersed, though not without lingering glares and whispers. The woman who had insulted her lingered longest, her stare promising that this was far from over. Then she stalked away, heels striking hard against the dirt. Arya exhaled shakily. "What the hell was that?" Lena. Darius replied flatly. "She thinks she has claims, she doesn't." Claims. His gaze flicked to her, unreadable. "It doesn't matter. Come." He strode forward again, and though every part of her screamed not to follow, her feet betrayed her. She trailed him toward the largest cabin at the center of the clearing, her mind spinning. Alpha. Pack. Protection. And him. Darius. A man who had torn through wolves like shadows, whose very presence bent people into silence, who now claimed her life as though it belonged to him. She didn't know if she should be more afraid of the wolves outside, or the one leading her inside. The cabin was larger than she expected, 2 stories of rough timber. Its roof pitched steeply, the kind of building that looked as though it had been standing here for centuries, weathering storms no human eye had witnessed. Inside, the warmth of firelight wrapped the room in flickering amber, throwing restless shadows across the walls. A stone hearth glowed on one side, logs crackling and releasing the sharp tang of resin. Animal pelts softened the floor, their patterns unfamiliar, some striped, some gray and mottled like smoke. Arya hesitated on the threshold. Stepping inside felt like surrender, but behind her was the forest, alive with howls she wasn't ready to face again. She could still feel the press of the wolf's teeth in her imagination, the rush of air when jaws snapped at her throat. The choice wasn't really a choice at all. Darius glanced over his shoulder. Inside, the single word slid over her skin like command, not request. Something inside her bristled, but she obeyed. The door shut behind her with a solid thud, heavy wood sealing her off from the world outside. The hum of the pack faded instantly. For the first time since the clearing, she and Darius were alone. Arya folded her arms, trying to shield herself from the weight of his gaze. "You can't just drag me here. I don't even know what this place is." He leaned against the mantel, arms crossing his chest, posture deceptively relaxed. The firelight carved sharp lines into his face, silver eyes reflecting like molten metal. "You'll know soon enough," he said. "That's not an answer." His gaze didn't waver. Answers have weight. You're not ready to carry them. Frustration climbed her throat, hot and choking. "Stop speaking in riddles. I deserve to know what's happening." Something flickered across his expression, not quite irritation, not quite amusement. His lips parted, as though he might answer. But instead, he pushed off the mantle and closed the space between them. The air thickened. Every step he took felt like the forest itself shifting toward her, inevitable and overwhelming. Arya's breath caught, her body tensing, but pride pinned her feet in place. She refused to retreat. Darius stopped so close she could see the faint scar bisecting his brow, the curve of his mouth hovering just short of cruel. His voice dropped, quiet but sharp enough to slice through her defiance. "You wouldn't believe me if I told you." Arya's heart hammered painfully against her ribs. She wanted to demand more, but her throat locked. The intensity in his eyes held her still, her defiance battling something far more dangerous. The pull toward him she didn't want to admit. A sharp knock splintered the moment. The door creaked open before Darius gave permission, and a woman swept inside, bringing a gust of cold air with her. Lena, her beauty struck, immediately tall, poised, with a predator's elegance. Midnight hair spilled over her shoulders, framing a face that might have belonged to a queen, if not for the razor edge of disdain etched into every line. Her dark eyes landed on Arya with surgical precision, stripping her bare in seconds. "So the human survives the night," Lena said smoothly. "How quaint." Arya stiffened, arms hugging tighter around herself. She refused to shrink beneath that stare. Charming as ever. Lena's smile was pure venom. She stepped closer, circling with calculated ease, her boots silent on the pelts. "You don't belong here. The pack knows it. I know it. Even you know it." "Enough," Darius said, his voice sharp, but Lena ignored him. Her focus never left Arya. "You're weak, fragile. When danger comes again and you'll run. And when you run, you'll drag others down with you. What good are you to us?" Heat flared in Arya's cheeks. Better than hiding behind cruelty and jealousy. The words slipped out before she could stop them. Silence slammed down, thick and electric. Lena froze. Slowly, dangerously, her smile vanished. "Jealousy," she repeated, voice like ice. Arya's pulse screamed at her to retreat, but she forced herself upright, chin tilting. "If you weren't jealous, you wouldn't feel threatened." Gasps rose faintly outside the door, listeners drawn to the tension inside. Lena's eyes gleamed, narrowing to slits. "You're nothing but a distraction. A pretty face to amuse him until he grows tired. And when he does, you'll find out just how merciless this place can be." Arya's heart thudded, but she refused to break eye contact. Darius moved then, a blur of sudden presence. He stepped between them, his body a wall, his dominance radiating like a storm about to break. "Lena," his voice was lethal in its restraint. The air seemed to vibrate with it. For a heartbeat, Lena held her ground. Defiance flickered in her eyes, but even she couldn't withstand the weight of his command. Her jaw clenched, fury simmering beneath her perfect mask. Finally, with a sharp turn, she stormed toward the door. The slam echoed through the cabin like thunder. Silence pressed heavy in her absence. Arya's chest rose and fell rapidly. She turned on Darius, anger spilling past her fear. "You're just going to let her talk to me like that?" His expression was unreadable, carved in stone. You handled yourself. That's not the point. Here, strength speaks louder than words. Tonight, you showed strength. They'll remember that. Arya blinked, thrown by the faint edge of approval beneath his tone. Confusion tangled with her fury. You talk about strength as if it's all that matters. In this world, he said, stepping back toward the fire, it is. His broad shoulders caught the light as he turned, his focus shifting away from her, as if she no longer required attention. It infuriated her. It unsettled her more than Lena's venom. Why me? She demanded. Why did you bring me here at all? He didn't answer at once. The fire popped, sending sparks spiraling up the chimney. Finally, he spoke, voice low, because leaving you out there would have been the same as killing you. And I don't waste lives. The words struck deeper than she expected. She wanted to scoff, to accuse him of arrogance, of pretending mercy where none existed but something in his tone stilled her. She sank into the chair nearest the fire, exhaustion dragging at her limbs, questions clawing at her mind. Outside, faint howls rolled across the valley, some close, some distant, weaving a chorus that reminded her she was caged in their world now, and inside, she felt the weight of his presence even when he said nothing. Her freedom had ended the moment. He caught her hand in the forest. The morning came cold and sharp, the kind that seeped through wood and stone until it found the marrow in your bones. Arya woke to the echo of howls rippling across the valley, layer upon layer of voices so deep and resonant, the air itself seemed to tremble. For a moment she couldn't remember where she was, why her muscles ached, or why the ceiling above her was made of rough timber instead of plaster. Then she caught the scent of smoke and pine resin, felt the heavy pelt blanket draped across her, and memory rushed back like a blow. Wolves in the clearing. Darius's hand dragging her into the shadows. The strange village hidden away where no map would ever find it. A knock rattled the door. Before she could answer, it swung open, and a tall young man stepped inside, shoulders broad enough to block the light behind him. A scar cut across his cheek, and his amber eyes regarded her with a cool detachment. "The Alpha summons you," he said, his tone clipped. Arya blinked at him, still groggy. "Summons? What am I? A prisoner now?" His mouth twitched, though it didn't quite become a smile. "Everyone answers when the Alpha calls." And with that, he turned and left, leaving her bristling at the lack of choice. She shoved herself out of bed, tugged her boots on, and stepped outside. The village was already alive with motion, men splitting wood, women hauling buckets of water, children darting between cabins in bursts of laughter that ended as soon as they caught sight of her. Whispers followed wherever she walked. Some openly stared. Others ducked their heads, as though she carried a contagion by the time the scarred man led her into a wide clearing at the village's center. Her skin buzzed with unease. Dozens had gathered in a half-circle, their gazes fixed on the space where Darius stood waiting. He was motionless, yet his presence anchored the scene, his silver eyes sweeping over the crowd with quiet authority. Lena was already there, at his side, radiating satisfaction. Her gaze cut to Arya like a blade, lips curling into a smirk. "Bring her forward," Lena said sweetly, though her tone was dipped in poison. "If you insist on keeping her here, at least let the pack see what you've dragged into our home." Arya stiffened, ready to snap back, but Darius's voice rolled out, low and commanding. "She is under my protection. But protection is not given freely." His gaze slid to Arya, pinning her in place. "The pack will see her strength." A Ripple of murmurs spread. Strength, someone muttered. She doesn't have any, another scoffed. She's just human, a woman's voice rang. She break before she begins. Arya's pulse spiked. What do you mean? See? My strength, she demanded, hating the tremor in her voice. Darius's eyes met hers, silver burning. A test. Lena's smirk sharpened. Perfect. Two men rolled a stripped log into the clearing, its girth nearly as wide as Arya's torso. The surface was scarred and rough, dark rings marking its weight. Arya gaped. You expect me to lift that? Not lift, Darius said calmly. Endure. He stepped closer, his shadow spilling over hers. You will hold it across your shoulders, as long as you can. Fail, and you prove them right. Endure. His eyes held hers, steady and merciless. And you earn your place. Lena laughed. Sharp as broken glass. She last a minute, maybe less. Arya's stomach twisted. And if I refuse, Darius's voice dropped to a blade's edge, then you confirm their doubts. The pack leaned forward, eyes bright with anticipation. Some smirked openly. Others whispered bets on how quickly she would collapse. Arya swallowed hard, fists curling. She hated the smug gleam in Lena's eyes, hated the way everyone expected her to fail. Against every rational instinct, she squared her shoulders. Fine, I'll do it. A low murmur of surprise ran through the crowd. The two men hoisted the log and lowered it onto her shoulders. The weight struck like a hammer, slamming her knees into the dirt. Her breath ripped out in a gasp. Laughter rippled from the crowd. Pathetic. Someone shouted. She can't even stand. Lena's voice rose above them all, honeyed and cruel. Maybe the alpha enjoys fragile toys, but toys break. Arya's vision swam, her muscles screaming under the crushing load. She dug her boots into the ground, teeth gritted, and forced herself upright. Inch by trembling inch, she rose until she stood again. The laughter faltered. Arya's arms shook, her shoulders on fire, but she locked her gaze on Lena. If she had to collapse, she would collapse, staring her rival down. Minutes bled into each other. Sweat stung her eyes, ran down her spine. Her body screamed at her to drop the log, to give in and let the dirt catch her. She bit her lip until she tasted blood, forcing herself to hold. Lena's smirk faltered. She won't last, she said, louder now, but there was a new sharpness in her voice. The pack's mutters shifted. Longer than I thought. She's still standing. She shouldn't be able to. Arya's legs trembled violently. The log seemed to double in weight with every breath. Her mind blurred at the edges, a haze of pain swallowing thought. Then, Darius's voice cut through it, low and steady. Don't break. The words wrapped around her like iron bands. She wanted to scream at him, curse him for pushing her into this humiliation. But some raw, desperate part of her clung to the sound of his command, used it to anchor herself. Her knees buckled. A cry tore from her throat. The crowd surged forward, anticipation sharp waiting for the collapse. But she caught herself, legs locking again, back arching under the load. Her vision went white with effort. Gasps rang out. She held it. She should have fallen. She's still going. Lena's eyes burned, disbelief twisting her face, at last, when her body shuddered. On the brink of collapse, Darius stepped forward. His hand closed on the log, lifting it as though it were nothing more than driftwood. Relief slammed through her body as the crushing weight vanished. She staggered forward, lungs dragging in ragged gasps. Silence. Then the murmurs came again, but not of mockery. She lasted longer than any human should. She fought. Darius set the log aside and faced the pack. His voice rolled through them like thunder. She stays. The declaration snapped through the clearing, final and absolute. The pack bowed their heads, some reluctantly, others with growing respect. Only Lena remained upright, her jaw clenched, fury radiating from every line of her body. She met Arya's gaze with a glare that promised this was far from over. Then she turned sharply, stalking into the crowd. Arya straightened slowly, every muscle quaking, her body aching from the ordeal. But pride burned through her exhaustion. She had faced their scorn, their test, their alpha's impossible demand, and she had not broken. For the first time, the pack did not see weakness. They saw fire. The clearing dispersed slowly, murmurs trailing into the morning air as villagers returned to their work. But the mood had shifted. Eyes that had looked at Arya with contempt now lingered, differently curious, unsettled, uncertain. Arya rubbed her raw shoulders, every muscle aching, but she held her head high. She wouldn't give Lena the satisfaction of seeing her falter. From the corner of her eye, she caught Darius watching her. His gaze was unreadable, sharp as a blade, yet heavy with something she couldn't name. When she met it, he didn't look away. It was Lena who broke the tension. She swept past Arya, her perfume a sharp, cloying scent that made the human wrinkle her nose. Leaning close, Lena murmured, "Enjoy your little moment. It won't last." Arya's jaw clenched, but before she could respond, Lena was gone, swallowed by the crowd. Later, in the shadow of the pines that circled the village, Lena's voice dropped to a hiss. She had gathered a cluster of young wolves, their eyes bright with resentment. "She's nothing. Human. Weak. She doesn't belong here." Lena's nails dug crescents into the bark of a tree as she spoke. "If the alpha is blinded, then it falls to us to protect the pack." One wolf, a broad-shouldered male with a sneer, growled low, "Say the word, we'll deal with her." Lena's smile was slow and venomous. "Not yet. If she falls too quickly, he'll defend her. We make her stumble. We make her bleed in front of him. Only then will his protection vanish." The wolves murmured assent, hunger for conflict lighting their expressions. Lena's eyes gleamed with satisfaction. Meanwhile, Arya found herself by the river that split the valley, kneeling to wash her hands. The icy water bit at her skin, but it dulled the ache in her muscles. She watched the current twist and rush, her thoughts a storm of their own. She had survived the trial. She had proved herself, but already she felt the undercurrent of hostility tightening around her, unseen but undeniable. Every step she took in the village carried the weight of eyes on her back. She cupped water to her face, trying to shake the feeling. When she straightened, she nearly jumped. Darius was standing across the river, silent as stone. "You watched me suffer," she snapped before she could stop herself. "You could have ended it sooner." His eyes locked on hers, cool and unyielding. "And if I had, the pack would never respect you. They respect strength, not pity." Her breath hitched with frustration. "You use me like a weapon, to make a point." A faint flicker crossed his face. "Amusement, perhaps, or something darker. And you think you didn't use me. You chose to endure because you would not let them win. You needed me watching." Her cheeks burned, though whether from anger or the truth of his words, she couldn't tell. "Stay close to me," he added, his voice dropping lower, edged with warning. "The pack is not finished testing you." Her chest tightened, unease prickling her skin. "And if I fail their next test," for the first time, his expression softened, barely, "then you die. And so does anyone who stands with you." The weight of his words settled like iron in her gut. Back in the shadows of the village, Lena watched them from a distance, fury etched into every line of her face. Darius's gaze on the human was different in a way she could not forgive. Her fingers tightened around the silver pendant at her throat until the edges cut into her palm. If the Alpha would not see reason, then she would force him to, and Arya would pay the price. Night descended, heavy and restless. The cabins glowed faintly with lantern light, shadows stretching long between them. From inside her small room, Arya lay awake, listening to the muffled sounds of the village settling. Laughter drifted from one hut, then a low argument from another. Somewhere in the distance, a wolf howled, answered almost immediately by another, and another. Until the chorus shook her bones. She pressed the blanket tighter around her shoulders, unable to find comfort. Despite her survival earlier, despite Darius's declaration, she knew she wasn't safe here. The stares she'd felt all day had not faded, they had sharpened. A knock broke through the silence. Soft, almost hesitant. Arya frowned, slipping from the bed and padding barefoot to the door. When she opened it, no one was there. Only the night air, cool and sharp. Then came a whisper. Arya. Her blood turned to ice. She spun, searching the shadows. Nothing, only the sway of branches beyond the cabins. Arya, the voice came. Again, this time from the tree line. Soft, urgent, almost familiar. Every instinct screamed at her to shut the door, to bar it, and crawl back into bed. But something compelled her forward curiosity, or maybe the need not to appear weak. She stepped outside, the dirt cold against her feet, and moved toward the trees. The deeper she went, the clearer the whispers became. But they weren't voices of comfort. They carried a mocking lilt, echoing in ways that made her skin prickle. A twig snapped. Arya froze. From the darkness, a figure emerged. Not Darius. Not Lena. A man she hadn't seen before. Tall and broad, his eyes glinting yellow in the moonlight. Two others stepped out behind him, forming a half circle. You don't belong here, the first one said, his voice low and rough. Arya's throat tightened. Then why bring me out here? A cruel smile spread across his face. Because it's quieter, away from the Alpha's eyes. Easier to teach lessons. The others laughed softly, the sound like growls. Arya's heart slammed against her ribs. She took a step back, only to feel another body behind her. Someone had circled around, trapped. Stay away from me, she forced out, though her voice wavered. The leader leaned closer, his breath hot, his teeth too sharp in the moonlight. Or what? Human, you'll scream. No one will hear you out here. Her body locked, panic clawing at her chest. She thought of the trial earlier, the crushing log, Darius's voice cutting through her pain. Don't break. Her jaw tightened. Try me. For a heartbeat, the wolf stilled, surprised at her defiance. Then, one lunged, but before he could touch her, a snarl split the night. Silver eyes flashed through the darkness. Darius burst into the clearing like a storm. His presence so overwhelming that the wolves dropped back instantly. His growl rumbled low, dangerous enough to freeze the air. Mine, he said, voice edged with steel. Touch her, and you answer to me. The leader stiffened, his bravado faltering. We were only silence. Darius's gaze cut through him. You dare challenge my word? The pack members shrank under his fury, their courage draining. One by one, they slunk into the shadows until only the leader remained. He hesitated, eyes darting between Arya and Darius. Then, he too, vanished into the trees. Arya stood rooted, chest heaving, fear and adrenaline tangling inside her. Darius turned to her, his silver eyes blazing. "What were you doing out here?" "I heard," she stopped herself. Saying she followed, whispers, sounded mad. "I thought, you thought," he snapped, stepping closer, "you could wander into the forest at night without me knowing. Do you want to die?" Anger rose hot in her chest, battling with the fear. "I didn't ask for your protection." His jaw tightened. "You didn't have to. You have it. Until you leave this place alive." Their gazes locked, sharp as blades. For a moment, neither looked away. Then Darius's voice dropped, quieter, rougher. "Next time, Arya, don't follow the dark when it calls." The words lingered between them, heavy with warning and something else she couldn't name.